So, a little bit about Maggie Gill. From a business background, Maggie moved to teaching adults, where she discovered a deep interest in the physiology of the adult learner. Further studies led her to a postgraduate certificate in education, a diploma in management studies, and a master's degree in business administration with a special focus on managing people through technological change. Upledger craniosacral therapy brought inspiration and a change of direction where new and former skills combined and began to develop. After establishing her practice in Brighton, Sussex, she started an Upledger study group there in 2002. As a board member of the Craniosacral Society for many years, Maggie helped the UK Upledger community work towards nationally recognized training standards. She currently offers Zoom and in-person study groups, individual mentoring, and supports apprentice teachers. Following her election to the Curriculum Oversight Committee at the Upledger Institute International, her focus for the last year has been to bring her understanding of curriculum development to good use as the group moves to integrating new research into CST training at all levels. Maggie is delighted to be a certified international instructor for the Craniosacral 1, Craniosacral 2, Somato Emotional Release 1, Somato Emotional Release 2, and Advanced 1, as well as an examiner at the Techniques and Diplomate levels. In addition, she offers clinical application classes and practice at all levels of the work. Currently teaching in many different parts of the world, she appreciates the fantastic opportunity of sharing the Upledger paradigm with students from different cultures. All right, wonderful. So Maggie, thank you again for being so gracious with your time and being with us today. I'm going to hand the floor over and take it away.
Thanks very much, Justin. And welcome, everyone. Looking forward to meeting you all on the screen, even if I can't see many of you. I'm just going to share my screen. Right, as Justin just said, 40 years. It's a remarkable record. And just bear with me a moment. I need to move something here. There we go. Just getting the technology organized. So Upledger is evolving from a strengthened foundation. And I want to tell you a little bit about me to start with, not for too long, because I'm excited to share all about the Institute with you. As Justin said, my background was in education, and what that meant was that expectations were around an excellence in recruitment, retention, and results. And I felt that was mirrored with the Upledger curriculum too. And the structure of courses, it's a modular structure, so it's great for adults who are self-responsible and motivated to complete the practice between the classes. It's really great to have a valid and reliable examination structure too. It's very important that we can stand on our feet and say, I am a qualified practitioner. Very important for recognition nationally and internationally. And above all else, I guess, a dynamic curriculum, a curriculum that doesn't stand still. Certainly since I've been involved in it as a student, it's just a very exciting place to be. So moving on, why did I come? Like many of you, it came really from receiving treatment. And receiving treatment when a lot of other people were saying, don't think there's much can happen here. In fact, I was told that I was likely to be in a wheelchair in about 5 years' time and so on, and a medical accident to both of my knees. And I'm not going to carry on about that much, but it was a severe issue, severe health issue, and involved a change of my work. Receiving this treatment took me to, well, just experience not only a physical change, but a change of mindset about my potential for recovery. It also made me very curious about what this work is really about. What's different about this work? So I started the training. Let's find out more. And as time went by, I began to practice. I became qualified, started a study group, as Justin just said, and realized that this is a continuous process, this work. And it involves self-knowledge and inspiration through learning from my clients. From the get-go, people said, when do you finish that training? And I said, well, by the looks of things, I don't think I will, because we're learning more and more about the body as time goes on. And the Institute is really interested in what's changing. So I really don't know. And I've got some questions for you. Justin's going to show you a poll. I would like to know more about you. So have a look at these. Are you a client? Are you a student? Are you a student of another area of work? Are you a teacher of this work or a study group leader? Or are you a layperson, just really interested in what's going on? That's absolutely great.
All right, wonderful.
Right, okay.
I'm going to share the results here, Maggie.
Mm-hmm.
All right, very good. I think everyone's got a chance to look that over, hopefully.
That's really interesting. So thank you very much for doing that. So I'll just close that one down on my screen, I think. Yes, good. So now moving on, attempting to move on. It's funny how these little technological things get in the way, just as they're supposed to be being absolutely perfect.
Maggie, was it just losing the Zoom screen?
Might be a moment.
Oh, I see.
There we are. So thank you for that. Let me just go forward here. Have you got my screen now?
Very good. Yes, Maggie.
Excellent. You have to remind something about the distances that we're actually working over. Every now and again, reality, thousands of miles, maybe something gets hit by a seagull on the way around here. Books by Dr. Upledger. Now, many of you will have seen these already, but I'd like to just talk about a couple, because my first slide is from that third book along on the top line, Somato Emotional Release and Beyond. And I'm going to be talking about the inner physician too. So Your Inner Physician in You is a great book. I keep them in my office and I give them to my clients, which is wonderful because the clients always bring me a new one back because they want to keep the one I gave them. Now, all of these books are really interesting, but for now, let's have a look at something from the Somato Emotional Release book. So Dr. John saw this work as being like a tree. You see, it's a very strong tree. We've got all of the techniques from CS1 and 2 in the roots. And then going up the trunk, it takes us to the spiritual growth and the somato emotional release work. I hope that's clear enough. It's not a great picture, but if you have got that green book and you've forgotten that picture, do take a look. The way the curriculum has gone since I've been involved in it, I'd see the roots as being this big because the work has really expanded. So let's just have a look at that. and also what underpins the whole curriculum, every single level and every single class. Remember the book that I just mentioned, Your Inner Physician in You? Well, inner physician can sound a very simple thing. Do you have one? Could you imagine you have one? We refer to it as inner wisdom and sometimes inner knowing. It's the side of you or your client that kind of gives you that warning, slow down before the next bend. And we hear our clients say things like, I told myself it was a bad idea, but I went ahead and did it anyway. So inner physician, that part of our client and ourselves, is a very precious thing, and we're honored to be working with it. Neutrality. Does that mean doing nothing? Not at all. It means watching out for our touch, for our thoughts, getting alongside the client and their inner wisdom, their inner physician, without any ideas. We don't diagnose, we don't fix. What we become in this work is the therapeutic facilitator. We create a presence for our clients to do their healing. Does that sound like a cop-out? I hope not, because it's something that it's a life's work. Our palpation starts with our first levels of training, and we use the weight of a nickel, 5 grams, as our example. We don't keep it at 5 grams because we go with what the tissue shows us, but that's the starting place, because we're not looking to find out how the client's body can resist us. We're looking to find out what's happening. It's a conversation that goes from our hands, to our head, but there's a conversation as we palpate with the client's tissue, which is, show me. We tune into the craniosacral rhythm. And once we've got used to palpating that, it tells us a lot about what's going on. Fascia. Now, when I did my CST one, this was a very, very short lecture. But we understand so much more about it now that in our first class, we look at some very interesting work around fascia. And we could be here all week just talking about that. But we haven't got a week. As Justin said, we've got roughly an hour or slightly less. But through our palpation, we're able to receive signs of release. We feel signs of release in the client's tissue. And that can lead us to our next hand position. It can lead us to enough already. We may be pushed off. So all of this is underpinning all of our work. These things go through every class. And of course, we've got different techniques and principles in the classes too. So I hope that that makes sense to you. It's underpinning everything. And we're back to the tree again. We've got that thick trunk, but there's lots of offshoots from different levels within the curriculum. I was so pleased to be able to come over to Florida and take the Brain Speaks class from Dr. Upledger and 2 of the immune response classes from him, just to come over and see his teaching and his presence, and to respect the fact that he could hold a room of 80 or 90 people in his hand. It was something to see, something to remember. Of course, that didn't stop when he passed. The Brain Speaks work has been taken on by Avidan Larson. The immune work has been taken forward by Tim Hutton. And I'm mentioning the names here because some of you will have come across these wonderful people on your journey so far. Therapeutic imagery and dialogue, now called Mastering the Inner Physician, with Stan Jerome. The pediatrics, always developing, always bringing in new work. We have Rebecca and Carol. Glial cells with Tad van Veer, and I've missed the bioaquatics out with Chaz and Kat, the work in the Bahamas with and without dolphins. And then Michael Morgan, craniosacral therapy for those with Alzheimer's disease and how we can help them. Nikki Kenwood, the second brain, the gut. Cranial nerves, Karen Axelrod. Concussion, Marianne Cisco. The Matrix, Carol again. And Cyclus Vitae. And sorry, Diego, if I didn't pronounce that exactly as you would have liked it. So all of these classes are available to us as we go through our core curriculum. And it's not a simple matter. If you have an idea about a class, it's a rigorous process of approval. The approval goes from your peers, from fellow teachers, and to various panels, and then to the curriculum oversight. So these folk have put in a huge amount of work to develop classes that complement that tree. So if we look at the top of the screen, the green arrow, one of the things that I've seen from teaching in many countries is that in some places there's many doctors, osteopaths, chiropractors, massage therapists, chiropractors, psychotherapists, and physical therapists. Students find their way, their strengths, outwardly and inwardly. This is a real voyage of discovery, this curriculum. It's certainly not just about gathering up things to do to people. We have to learn about ourselves as we go on. What supports the student of this work? Going on through the blue arrow there. Study groups, mentoring, and those facilities are still developing in many parts of the world. We have examinations. We've got a robust and valid structure for examinations, and those are taken up more and more. I mean, Dr. Upledger saw this work as adjunctive and then recognized that actually we needed examinations that were dedicated to this work, and the work can stand alone. So I hope that what you see from there is that there's a wide variety of people taking these classes, and that there's a really sound structure to support you if you decide to put a toe in. So today we're talking about evolving, an evolution, not a revolution, an evolution, a gentler process through looking at the foundations of the work. You know, that foundation, those roots from that tree. So we're going to look at the roots. We've already started. A little bit of the history of the work and the way we work. It's often called the paradigm. What's happened along these 50 years, or 40 years, I'm so sorry. What's happening now? And then how we're taking insights and information forward so that we end up with a strengthened foundation, because we're not going to be standing still, that's for sure. So our roots, and just a little bit of history. And I know many of you, lots of you, our students, will have heard some of this. So I'm not going to go through in a lot of detail. Just a gentle reminder that this work came from Andrew Taylor Still. We're talking about the 1800s and the way that he was disillusioned and developed new work called osteopathy. And he founded the Kirksville College of Osteopathic Medicine. And there are 4 key principles that we remember here. The body functions as a dynamic unit, a unit. The structure of the body and the function are interrelated. You can't separate them. I mean, I'm sure as a student of the work, you feel this makes sense. And the body has a self-regulating system, tends towards homeostasis, and movements related to health. For his day, he was an incredible pioneer to come up with these key concepts. We've got a lot to thank him for. There are books about him. Please go Google him, find out more about his journey, because it's a really interesting and inspiring journey. One of his students at Kirksville, William Garner Sutherland, he became very interested. He was extremely keen on the structures and the form of the cranium. I'm just letting some people in. I'm speaking here, so excuse me. And he identified these rhythms, motions of the cranium. He was interested in the sutures, where the bones meet. And his concept included these anatomical parts that were closely related to the central nervous system and a palpable cranial movement that you could feel anywhere on the body. So this contribution, plus that of Dr. Still, made an essential framework for Dr. Upledger's innovations. Again, remember, a pioneer, and the development of craniosacral therapy. Dr. William Sutherland, founder of osteopathy, cranial osteopathy. So our third pioneer, Dr. John Upledger, who was also a student at Kirksville. So he looked at Sutherland's work. He went back to some of Sutherland's research about the sutures. You can see them here in the cranium. Our central nervous system there. And we have to remember that between the years of 75 and 83, Dr. Upledger was a professor of biomechanics and a clinical researcher at Michigan. He was determined to find out what was behind the movements that he could palpate. If you buy that Inner Physician in You, you'll find there's a story in there about one of his clients called Delbert. And I'm not going to go through it now, but if you go on your first class, or if you've forgotten it, take out your CST1 study guide and have a look. As the work developed, Dr. John could see that as he developed somato-emotional release, the person was not just about structural and physiological aspects. The psychosomatic aspect of a person was integrated into the craniosacral system. It's a wonderful photograph here. Dr. John, Rebecca, working on the Egyptian conjoined twins, helped with their surgery and so on and so forth. Just letting someone else in. So we know 40 years ago, the Upledger Institute in Palm Beach Gardens. And in there began the intensive treatment programs for veterans from Vietnam, other veterans too, work on post-traumatic stress, more recently work on concussion. These intensive treatment programs were not always in Palm Beach. There was one in New York after 9/11, which I was privileged to be a therapist at for some of the time and assistant for the rest of the time. And that there have been intensive treatment programs for adults and veterans and children in many countries. This is a way of working with this therapy which is truly remarkable. And it's made a huge difference to people who had pretty much given up. So I urge you to go ahead with the work. If you do study it, go ahead, get qualified, and go help on these intensive programs. So just to review, are you on your own? No. 150,000 practitioners. You see, when I started teaching CST1, these figures were very different. And each time I teach it, I have to check, what's the number? What do I have to put here? So you're definitely not on your own. And look at the spread across the world. I'm not on my own as an instructor either. There's 110 of us at least. And the work has taken me to teach in many countries. Some of them are on this map. Back to the books. Am I an avid reader? Yes. So don't forget the books, because we tend to buy them when we're in a class. They go on a shelf, they get dusty. Take them out and give them a dust off, because some of these books, now that you've had some experience in the work, you'll find things that you really, you swear weren't there before. The brain is born absolutely beautiful for our nervous system. So move on, Maggie. I love books. As you work as a student here, you begin to get that knowledge is one thing, and we all need it. We need our knowledge of anatomy and physiology, our knowledge of our previous work, or perhaps a different modality or background, whether it's as a doctor or physio, massage therapist, all of that. And then we practice this work. It enhances our understanding, but we need to practice and keep practicing, because as we develop the palpatory skills that take us into the more subtle structures in the body, then we begin to embody this paradigm. So it's not just about the knowledge of anatomy and physiology. Yes, we need it. It's very important. It is more than that. It's learning from our clients and learning from ourselves. And we begin to take the principles of the work into our own lives. So just a couple of things. The paradigm, the way we work. The therapist needs to trust in the process, because sometimes, therapists say, I want my client to go out looking smart and happy. And sometimes people can look a bit disheveled. We talk about the craniosacral hairdo, because folk come to us to be. They need to feel safe enough to be themselves, to be angry, to laugh, to just be what they want to be and who they want to be. So the therapist needs to trust the process and see that their client is doing their own thing. Trust the inner wisdom of the client, and to be aware of their own inner wisdom too. We talked a moment or two about the therapeutic facilitator. A facilitator is someone who eases the pathway by their presence. We're not a dictator. We're not going to tell our clients what they need to do, because our clients need to know the next things, that we are sincere. We are interested in them. We take a history. We look them in the eye as we take a history. We're not just tapping it all into a computer. We're not going to tell them what to do, as I just said. We're not going to diagnose. We're not going to say, oh, I can see this needs work. We're not judgmental. Everyone's a human being. We need to be compassionate. And I've put the last one in blue because for many people that is the most difficult. Of course, we need an ego. We need something that keeps us safe. But if our ego takes us to a place where we want something for the client, we're not neutral. We want to be a hero. We want to rescue our client. Then actually, we should be on the table. So I hope those make sense for you. Because we never know what's going on in someone else's body. Not really. Everyone is unique. But we're very interested. we're very interested in what the inner wisdom, the inner physician has to show us through the fascia, through our palpation. One of my teachers and my mentor for some years, he's passed away now, sadly, was Sano Visser from Holland. And he used to sum all this up by saying, can your client rest on your hands? Can your client feel safe? Can you feel a kind of resonance energetically, physically, emotionally? Can you feel through your neutrality that your client is resting? Because then they can spontaneously respond to that place of rest. Their nervous system can decrease in its revving up, allowing the other side of their nervous system, their parasympathetics, to come in. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. As time has gone by, information changes. Everybody is now looking at fascia, cerebrospinal fluid. What's going on? Over years, you will, if you're a student of the work, you will have filled in evaluation forms. They are read, they are taken seriously. So listen to the feedback from teachers and students, because that's the only way we can find out what the roots are needing. What do we need to help underpin the work? Do we have some new research tools? Do we have some new ways of measuring? Are there some outcomes out there that we should be looking at? Which of them are for us and which of them probably aren't? So we need to be in a place where we are looking at our environment in the biggest and the widest way. I used to call it, in my old world, environmental scanning. From the management point of view, it's about always looking around, not just looking at what you've got. So we need to review, look at what students are saying, what's the teacher's feedback? Can we refine what we do? Is there some research going on, and can we respond to it? Does it fit? Because society is changing and the needs of professional associations are changing. They all impact on our work, but at the same time, we don't want to lose the essence, the simplicity of Dr. John's work and the beauty of it. You saw how the work has gone out all over the world. That's the proof of what we do. Along the journey, we found some very interesting research that informed what we were feeling. And at one of the conferences, the Beyond the Dura, some years ago, there was a wonderful presentation by this guy, Jean-Claude Gumberto. He's a plastic surgeon and a hand surgeon. You'll find it's well worth having a look. Google him. You'll find references to him on the Upledger website as well. Have a look. Look at YouTube. Look wherever you look and have a look at his work, because we used to think that fascia was a certain way. And then look at this, the sliding. He described the interstitial fluids. He's shining a light here. He talks about the mirrors, sparkling mirrors. Complexity of fascia, the gliding, the wonderful patterns. Do take a look, because if you become involved in this work and your palpation skills become capable of more and more subtle listening, then you'll get a sense of the fascia which goes way beyond. And it's at this point, there are other points too, that we really have to remember, not just Dr. John, but John Matthew, who took over from him. Just remember the energy and attention that's been underneath, underpinning this beautiful work. taking a moment and I remember being part of a group when Dr. John passed. In fact, I was teaching a CST too. This is the third day. And Caroline Barrow, who now heads up the UK, she was assisting me then. And we decided when would be the best time to tell the student group. And one of the students said, "Is it all going to fall apart then?" As students do. Well, no. John Matthew was already there. But then when John Matthew passed, I have no doubt there were some of those kinds of comments too. But John Matthew had set the management, the executive of Upledger in place. And here's a picture of them. Yes, it's still spreading out across the world. 500 seminars annually in 50 countries, 150,000 practitioners. So we're not on our own, we've got wonderful support. And more research that informs our understanding, because Thomas Rasmussen is now in. Measuring. How can you measure cranial movements? Well, what do you need your hands on? Is that going to be reliable? Is it going to be scientific? We've got to find another way of measuring things. Thomas was busy. We had more information coming through about cerebrospinal fluid production and circulation, and this is all available in the public domain. But we were adding to our CST1, adding to our foundation as these bits of information came in. And take a look. There are animations about cerebrospinal fluid. You can get really interested and see lots going on. And these were incorporated into our work. The model as to how all this happens is in our roots, and it's called the pressure stat model. Yes, it's still there. But now we've got some new ways of measuring, some new scientific information. So what do these new tools show? Can we use them? How do they inform our work? How do they strengthen it? Yep, time to strengthen the roots, nurture them, but not to pull up the tree. We need a deep respect for the integrity and the huge value of all the work that went before. It's not wrong. For its time, it was pioneering, revolutionary, and it was everything that could be done at that time. We've now progressed in the same way that medicine has progressed. So let's have a look. William Garner Sutherland, we've already mentioned, in the 1920s. His view was that the cranial movement, this rhythm that we can feel on the cranium and all over the body, was led by the expansion and contraction of the tissues of the brain, called the brain contractile model. Moving on to the 1970s, Dr. Upledger proposed pressure stat model with cerebrospinal fluid, its regulation controlled by a nerve tract, stretch and pressure receptors, and that the rhythm was produced by there being a constant drainage of cerebrospinal fluid with intermittent production, so that we didn't overflow, as it were. For their time, fine. But now we're looking further, because research that we have now doesn't give enough scientific evidence to support either the Sutherland's view or Dr. John's original pressure stat. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It means that things have moved on. We have some different ways to explore and to validate what we can feel, which is incredibly important. And rest assured, the beginning of the Craniosacral Therapy 1 textbook. Most of us say, oh, it's the brown book. Look at this. As in any new field of study, the craniosacral concept is changing rapidly. He was writing this in 1983. This book contains the most recent information available. Also, there's a considerable amount of observation and theory that hasn't yet withstood rigorous scientific testing. Remember, Dr. Upledger was a researcher, a clinical researcher. He wanted to know what was going on behind what he could feel. And so do we. And then, just as that was all gathering speed, the world changed. And you know what I'm going to say next? COVID. So did everything stop then? We weren't allowed out and so on. So if you go to the top of this little diagram, no way. Upledger International did not stop. Far from it. Out of crisis came creativity. What can we do? We didn't sit around feeling glum. Everyone, the executive to the teachers and so on, everyone worked to take the work forward and develop it even further. What can we do? What can we use? What will work? So online classes started and study groups online too. And thankfully, although we still have our odd itches, of course, Zoom moved to support business and other methods, but Zoom in particular is the one that we use a lot. It moved to support business worldwide. There was a lot of investment in technology. And we began to use and create online resources. And then when things calmed down and we were able to get out a bit, we had hybrid courses, partly on Zoom, partly in person. Really thankful that that was what Upledger did, because that was a huge challenge. And we were definitely ahead of the game there. So we made a new game, created a new game altogether. Some of you, maybe you're almost as old as me, I don't know. Remember Dr. Upledger playing jazz at the piano. The music, the beat goes on. The beat certainly went on through that time of COVID. Huge amount of creativity, sharing ideas, people getting together. What can we do? Where can we practice? What will work? And harmony. So Upledger supported us practitioners and teachers at that time, and it continues to do so because of this creativity, this development, this way of seeing when it's time for a new game, some new nourishing for the roots. So our focus started with self-care, calming and strengthening and revitalizing us, looking after us. One of my wonderful colleagues, Marianne Cisco, came to a study group I was running online because we were all sharing each other's study groups. We were really enjoying getting together. And Marianne took an idea to Dawn and said, what about a self-care series with different teachers? And that series was born. And so we looked at photographs and we talked about how people could just put their hands on themselves, feel their craniosacral rhythm. How does this look for an OCB release, occipital cranial base? Well, it's different, but it seemed to work. And how about this? for dural tube. Impossible? Maybe. The power of intention and the power of a gentle touch moving through the tissue, an awareness of the structures in between, and a curiosity about what's happening. The self-care, direction of energy. Many of you know about this technique. Have you got an ouchy place? Just pop your hands either side of it. So simple. It's one of the techniques we often forget. However, we got through it. We got through it, and the evolution continues. And so now our understanding of how craniosacral therapy works is enhanced. Our understanding is greater. We are a unified system. Back to Andrew Taylor still. The body is a unit. We understand now more about the rhythms in the body, about cerebral spinal fluid and sutures. And this wonderful work, it works with everything, all aspects of us. So we look at a system. A system's a collection of processes that work together, often defined by its function. So I've got a question for you. What do you see as the function of the craniosacral system? So Justin, are you there with a poll?
Absolutely.
Questions, what's the function of the craniosacral system?
All right, they're coming in quickly. I'll give it another 10 seconds here. And the results should be shared there with you, Maggie.
Yep, that's wonderful. So I'll just click to stop sharing those results now. That's huge, wonderful. All of the above. Now, just as we did last time, I need to remind my system that we're still moving after the poll. How funny, that question for you is there. Yes, the function, the system's role or purpose. And we're going to look at the mechanism. And funnily enough, systems was something that I used to study in a different way. And it's fascinating how some of that stuff comes into this work, some of the past. I'm sure many of you who used to work in different areas find that somehow it all comes in. So as you said, we are interconnected. The function, maintaining health in its totality. Back, as I said, to Andrew Taylor Still. The mechanism about the system. Now we need energy to move, don't we? I could see you nodding and smiling. Yes, Maggie. We need energy. And if our system is balanced, that's all of our tissues, our bones, and so on, then when we move, everything else will coordinate rhythmically. We're walking and so on. But if our system isn't in a balanced way, it will show in the way we move. Think about limping. Think about how we feel if our gut isn't healthy, if we are restricted in some way. And as Thomas says, because this is his slide, the mechanism behind the motions we feel, we can't fully explain it or understand it, but we're getting close. So this is another theory or model, just to help us understand more. So you know that the structural level, the craniosacral system, here you are, bones of the cranium. Just look at the bold type here. meningeal membranes, envelop the spinal cord and brain. Everything that's connected to these components is part of the system. All of the connective tissue. That's pretty much all of us. You see, our system, our craniosacral system, is related to every system in the body. Everything. So when we work with our techniques, we might think we're just targeting the physiological functions, but we're actually in touch with the whole system. And we talk about the rhythm. And we talked about the beat goes on, repetitive movement. It's fundamental to life. And we focus on the craniosacral rhythm, named by Dr. Upledger. When we start this work, we palpate many rhythms, our breathing, our cardiac, and then the cranial rhythm we use for evaluation and treatment. When Dr. Upledger taught, he talked about 6 to 12 cycles a minute, but what the measurements show, don't forget, it's this close one, I'm just letting someone else in here, that there's a palpable rhythm, a measurable rhythm, in the range of 4 to 8 cycles per minute, with an average, the middle point, of 6. Slightly slower than our breathing. It can be felt all over the body, and it's quite stable. And this was a great relief to me because most of the time, my cranial rhythm was 5 seconds each way. So Dr. Thomas, I'm just about to say Thomas, but we know each other fairly well. We've been working together, so I'll refer to him as Thomas. He's formulated the pacemaker theory. And it's integrating recent research and rhythms and gives us a new understanding of how what we do touches the foundation of human health. What we do, because we have these wonderful stories about our clients, and they always say, how did you do that? There's another little question here. We got time for that, Justin?
Yeah. Let me just put that up. That's our third one. And I'm sorry, Maggie, I should have mentioned. I'll admit if you see anybody, I guess we're a little ways through it. The question for the pacemaker, is that where we're at?
Yep.
All right, that's what I thought. There you go. This would be a nice new little quiz.
Well, that's a relief.
All right, I'll give it another 15 or 20 seconds here. They're coming in quickly now.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you very much, everyone, for taking a moment to indicate your thoughts about a pacemaker. Okay.
All right, it looks like it has slowed down here. Let me just go ahead and launch, share the results.
All right.
There we are.
So, okay, so I'll take that down now. And I'll be patient with my system as it recovers from doing a little quiz. Here. So the essence. You said, well, yeah, and well, maybe, but actually the pacemaker is based on the fact that there is a rhythm behind our circulation, our creation, and our whole craniosacral system. There is a rhythm, there is a pacemaker neuron. So let's have a look at this. Craniosacral rhythm. Lower part of the brainstem near the fourth ventricle. Those of you who are students of the work know all about a technique called CV4, compressing ventricle 4, and you understand about things like the vagus nerve and so on, how important this area is. So this theory is based on oscillating, moving, energetic neurons, creating the rhythm in this central organizing area. I'm going to spin through this because I know I'm taking up quite a bit of your time, but I'm very excited about this. And when I get excited, I'll probably talk too much. So oscillating neurons are not new. They are an accepted scientific, they are real. If in doubt, go Google. But Thomas proposes that there's an autonomous oscillator in the brainstem close to the fourth ventricle, and it generates our rhythm without any kind of external input. We talked about the pacemaker that we have put in our heart. Our heart has a pacemaker normally, but if it isn't working, then we need something else. But that location in the brainstem, it's a fantastic area, and it means that this pacemaker neuron can really influence a lot of this communication, higher brain centers, whole body physiology. And you know about the autonomic nervous system, fight and flight, or parasympathetics, and so on. You've done a lot of work around that in any of the work that you do already. So this pacemaker is is a big influence in this area of the major autonomic functions. So it's getting alongside all these important functions that are already there. So the explanation for the 6 cycles a minute cranial rhythm includes the autonomic nervous system. Google, go have a look, research this whole area. Fourth ventricle, reticular formation, so many important functions. And one of those, not necessarily everyday language, neurogenic vasomotion. Well, you can imagine that's something to do with vascular, something to do with veins. And we've already mentioned this maintenance of homeostasis. The body has its own self-healing mechanism. Andrew Taylor Still. Dr. John, inner wisdom, inner physician. Now, our craniosacral system, we just need to reinforce it's related to all of our systems. We can feel that rhythm on any part of the body. And now we've got this theory to give us an explanation for it. And what I've just said is repeated on the left, but I couldn't resist the temptation to show you a neuron. How silly am I? So oscillating neurons, 3 parts. The central pacemaker we've talked about, vascular ones, and our autonomic nervous system. I'm not going to read through all the slides, but just to say that this theory, it's not just come out of thin air. It's extensive research across numerous scientific fields over decades. And it contributes to our understanding of how the central nervous system works and how this rhythmic activity controls our physiological functions. Imagine nerves, and here, what have we got? We've got a couple of arteries. Nerves affecting the arteries. What does that do? If you're tense, it's going to be vasoconstriction. If you're chilled out, vasodilation. We talk about, oh, I went white, I was so frightened. I was really scared. Our nervous system, of course, it affects our vascular system. This next slide, have a look at what this means. This is myogenic, this is muscular, the smooth muscles inside. This rhythmic movement, this oscillation, affects the diameter of our blood vessels, our whole health. So, can we go? Pacemakers drive physiological rhythms, the heart, the breath, generated by oscillating neurons. Remember that beautiful neuron? And the major center is in the area of the fourth ventricle, CV4. Let's have a look at a couple of basics. So a rhythm is a wave moving in time. A wave is an oscillation. Creator of a rhythm is an oscillator. And this comes from the very foundation of life. Foundation of life, some of you might have had some explorations here, comes from DNA. Let's have a look at what happens. I'm not going to go into this in any great detail, but you can when you look it up, because I hope, if nothing else today, I've inspired you to go look. Look at what happens when DNA, we have a messenger RNA, we need to create protein, and then there is a loop. Look it up, look at the words that speak to you, maybe draw some diagrams, share it in a study group, share it with one another. When Dr. John taught the immune class, he created music, we all got up and acted out parts of the immune system. So let's bring this to life. Because our protein, that we were talking about just now, changes how excitable our neuron is. And then when it's done, it degrades. And the cycle starts again. So we're back to the very heart of life here. So to sum up, cerebrospinal fluid is moved by the rhythm that's created in our body. We talk about cerebral, we talk about our craniosacral system being the whole of the body. Fluid production and the circulation altered by stress. Our therapy work helps to reduce stress and the circulation of that cerebrospinal fluid. And one of the things we've learnt is called a still point. And as I mentioned, Dr. Sutherland described this technique around the fourth ventricle, and he called it the most powerful technique. So back to history, moving forward, we've looked at the roots, we've looked at the history, our paradigm, what's happening now, and hopefully with the new study guides that are coming out, new pictures, new research, we're taking all of that forward. We're not going to be standing still, and we have a strengthened foundation. Now, what can get in the way? Because I'm aware I've been talking a lot. Overwhelm. There is so much information, believe me, I've only touched on it. As adults learning, you want to put your new knowledge on what you already know, and some of this does not fit. It's a different paradigm. This work is not like other work. Because of those things we talked about, the inner wisdom, we come from humility. We don't come from, I know what you need. So as I've just mentioned, we have got a beautiful new study guide incorporating this new information. And I think that you'll believe and agree that we have strengthened the foundation of the work, thanks to welcoming research, and thanks to being able to respond whatever's going on in the world. COVID, the sad passing of some of our friends and so on. We move on. The beat goes on. Something from SER2, which is a class I love to teach, from one of the folk there, Roberto Assagioli, psychosynthesis. He reminds us there's no certainty, there is only adventure. Welcome to the adventure. Welcome to an organization that brings in new and exciting work. You can find these research articles on upledger.com. Everything is there for you. Please enjoy it. You're flying now.